how's everyone doing? It's March Madness, isn't it? That's what it feels like. So, I was just doing a reading. I've had this happen quite a few times today, where I'm about to do something and the reading just kind of goes and falls off. And it's regarding certain lines, certain stories, and certain tales. Well, that to me is a very recognizable key component of an energy that is dying out. And it's, you know, it was interesting because I just talked to Russell a little bit, just sent him a text message saying, and he was talking about some of these threads need to be tied together and some of them just need to be removed. And I agree. There are some threads that just definitely need to be removed right now. And that's what's happening. I'm finding that there's some readings that I'm going through, and right when I'm getting into it, it's like I can't even see the whole reading out because it already just drops off. And it's very much so an energy of what's the point, right? What's the point? And that's a really good, I like that, because what's the point feels very profound right now in my own life. What's the point of doing readings? What's the point of doing what we're doing right now? And what's the point of doing what we're asked to do in the landscape of culture and society? What's the point? And I feel like this is really, it's an exhaustive quest to find out certain things. And especially in the words of, there we go. Got one of them. Fucking mosquitoes have been biting me. In the quest for our purpose, in the quest of our pathway, in the quest of what we're here to do, right, is we have to, at some level, begin to look at what's the purpose here? What is the purpose? And that is such a keynote highlight right now in this reading, I guess, and in this passageway is why? Like, and I feel like that question point comes with a form of familiarity where we're going, first off, a nice approachable question. Why am I doing what I'm doing? To begin reconnecting, right? But also to, why do I do this? Why do I play in this, right? Why aren't I having fun? Why aren't I being silly and laughing? Like, why have there been excuse after excuse why we cannot do certain things and why we can't belong in certain areas of our lives, or why we can't get done what we're here to get done? And it very much so feels like that's the push-off frequency of allowing certain narratives and stories to come in to distract us from what we're here to do. There has been an energy of blindsiding, right? There's been an energy of blindsiding, which has very much so come through, have been like, kind of just getting slathered with things that are almost distraction points. The closer we get to our purpose, okay, so I this came through another reader locally in Sedona a little while ago, sweetheart, a big sweetheart named Ruby. Ruby, if you're watching this, much love to you, sweetie. And she said the closer you get to your true pathway, right, where you have like your family, your friends, all that stuff, right, the more distractions come about. And I feel like us in the level of ascension right now, there's a lot of things being slathered right now that can deter us from our purpose and our path, and especially guidance-wise. This has been very prevalent for myself for quite a little while, where the fear-mongering and the distortion and the anger and the bitter resentment has just been clogging up the field, like there's just been a massive vomiting of certain energetics or a purge. And as a result, some of us in the lifelines of Gaia and of Awakening of Ascension have been getting slathered a little bit, right? And so, you know, if you choose to title yourself as cleanup crew, welcome to the mop gang. How can I take your order, right? We got the Swiffer sweepers out on the road right now. It's just gnarly. Okay. So then about this now is, as these distractions are coming forward, what do we need? Okay, so we're going to work with the energies of Gaia here. We're going to work with energies of Gaia to bring forward a message from Gaia about what is going to support us the most right now, from a very deep, caring way? What is going to support us right now to let go of the distractions and the diabolical design of the old failing systems? Because there is this little bit of like a diabolical, like, I'm going to knock you off your path, like I'm going to distract you, right? And it is the jokester energy. It's the energy of the sacred clown. But it also is about, first off, rerouting our focus, right? Rerouting our focus. But also now, since the realms of hyperdimensionality, interdimensionality, multidimensionality, you know, they're awakening within us all, there's a lot more distraction coming from it and a lot more misinformation. Rob did a great video about this, and so I'm going to title Rob's video, or link Rob's video in this. And Reem touched on it today a little bit as well in her video. And when I came out here to do the reading, you know, I was on the walk doing this mindful, like, how am I walking right now? And the first thing that I encountered was, first off, that when I came down here, there was something about wanting to be by trees, you know, because I've got a river here, is being by trees and being low to the ground. I normally come out here with a chair, but there was something about getting the root chakra settled into sand, into Gaia. And there was something about sitting low and with the trees, feeling this almost this protective layer of shade from Gaia's root network, right? Because it's interesting. It's like, as we are stabilizing our own roots back into the form and back into our pathway, it seems like this already deeply rooted connection towering over us. It's this sense of safety, and it's this sense of wanting the child to feel okay in its place in time right now, right? Because, and this is what's really important about questioning the purpose right now, is in our own lives, questioning our purpose is going, okay, so why am I doing what I'm doing, right? Because there's been all these messages coming through about the child. And like, what does the child want to do? And for so long, we've neglected the joy of the child. We've neglected not only our own children, but we've neglected our own mothers, our own fathers, right? And a lot of us on this journey have had to separate from family very quickly to be out on the pathway and to go live the hero's tale. Now, as a result, you get to the end of the hero's journey and it's like, oh, the child needs a lot of love right now. So it's now playing catch up with the child. And so Mama Gaia, we're just going to ask for a beautiful, no. Gaia, we want to just bring in a message from Gaia, from Hope, regarding, what do we need to hear right now regarding these distractions and these purposes. Like, so one level is, there's been a Chiron, Chiron keeps popping up, and Chiron just popped up again, and it is the wounded soldier coming up for all of us. So I see Chiron, we see as the wounded healer, but for some reason I've been seeing Chiron as the wounded soldier lately. And there's been a change in that because of what's going on. I think it has to do with the energy of Mars right now, and the restructuring of Mars, is seeing Chiron and Mars is kind of like now bridging those two together, working in harmony to bring out the wounded soldier, which is, oh man, these lines have been, I've been working through the wounded soldier lines for what feels like eons. And it was a thread that came up earlier this year. So the wounded soldier very much so came through in December, and we worked through it until about March. And it's interesting because I said March Madness earlier. It feels like there's a return of that thread or layer. And that, you know, it was with the Magi. It had to do with Orion and the Magi. But it's almost like those lines from Orion in December of 2021 are resurfacing, and Chiron now is bringing in the wounded soldier, or the wounded brother, for the healing. Like we did the clearing, and now what's coming forward, it's like almost like the battle ended then, and now everyone's getting off the field and is coming in for repair. And as a result, there is this pull on the feminine, because the feminine was the nurse in those times, okay? So if we are to play this story out as it's coming up right now, is that when we were wounded on the field, right, it was the women, so it was, you know, we had doctors on the front lines that took us off, but it was the women that cared for it. So it seems to be that there is this pull on the feminine frequency for healing, which is creating a little bit of a suffocative tone on the collective, because we're here freeing the feminine. Okay, this is awesome. And I'm glad that those 3 letters came out because this all ties into this shit. So thank you. Since the masculine is healing and it is looking for the eternal feminine for that healing, the mother, right? There has been this level of, as we're freeing up the archetype of a feminine, there's also this suffocation of the feminine because the masculine is hurting. The masculine just got off the battlefield, it's wounded, and as a result, it needs that frequency of nature and nurture. And so it's interesting because here we are embracing, empowering, and freeing the feminine, yet there is a little bit of a suffocation that's coming forward of the feminine. And that suffocation is occurring, why? Because of her light, right? So the masculine being void of light or drained of light is now attracting in, like moths to a flame, to the feminine to try to perceive that energy. And we're speaking on a more of a distorted sense, but it's how we're cleaning up the battlefield right now in our own life. So Gaia coming through, offering this stable, persistent, non-exhaustive approach to abundance and to sharing, is a nice available cornerstone for all of us to relax and to pray and to play and to be with forgiveness. And that just wanted to come through. So there is that energy coming through. So let's go ahead and see, yeah, Mars frequency. I mean, yep, okay. I hear you, brother, I hear you. So let's just go ahead and see, because there is something about the eternal mother and the eternal grandma that has been void of the masculine energetics that's being called forward right now, because that is the feeling of wholeness, right? So it feels like a puzzle piece, and it feels like an alignment, or almost, yeah, a break or a fracture. It's a break or a fracture in the masculine archetype that is, it's almost like creating a little bit of a black hole, and that black hole creates a sucking energy that ends up suffocating the light out of the field. So it's interesting because this hole, or this dark portal that is within that masculine energetic range, is almost pulling on the light, and it's because Chiron needs mending. Chiron, and I don't want to say healing, but it's like Chiron itself needs mending. Like Chiron, thank you. Chiron. It's the wounded masculine. So we're going to go into the wounded masculine because I just got a text message and it kind of threw me off a little bit. Mercury and Mars into the body. Okay, Gaia. Gaia. It's interesting. There's been this energy too. Okay, I want to talk about this because it just kicked up. It just stirred up something. There is a frequency right now of, if you try to go, for myself, if I try to go outside of myself to share or to connect, it seems like everyone's a little bit in the touchy or sensitive side and needing to kind of pull in and to stay within. But right now, with where we're at on the evolutionary stage of our journey, if we try to go without for anything, it's like it's either A, falling on deaf ears, or the wisdom doesn't make sense. Because the clarity itself is needing to be provided from within. It cannot be found without. And so that's a little bit of that distractive frequency, is when it comes to the field and what's going on, we can't read outside. We have to go within right now. And I feel like that's the change in the focus in reading as well, is it's not about going out here from some higher guidance, but it's what you hold within your own consciousness, your own tank, your own think tank, right? Your own being state that wants to come forward and through. And so a lot of the energetics, while it is kind of it feels like an action focus, that action energy is coming in and it's pushing up everything. So this energy is not about doing, but it's about being in the action and allowing the active frequencies to come through and to almost propel her to push out everything from within. Now, as a result, when it comes out into the field, right, and we're all sharing kind of like a quantum field in the unified field, it's kind of just lingering and being shared about, right? And so some of us are the transfiguration points of that energy. Some are finding other ways to shift it out, right? And so this is why also to this nature and this like kind of like the natural resource of Gaia is providing a little bit of that shifting of the energetics. So thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Pachamama, for bringing this. Yeah, sing a song, dance, and play. Sing a song, dance, and play. Here we go. Very fascinating. The smoky mirror came through. So the smoky mirror, number 47. It's got a little bit of a, the smoky mirror sometimes can be in regards to deception, right? The smoky mirror. But right now it is about the fog. And it very much so is about like a puncture through of a veil or of a certain frequency. But for right now, we can't quite gain the clarity we need with what's fully going on. So some people are piecing together what's occurring, but it feels like there's the outside perception of the smoky mirrors. It's just not quite available yet. Like it's like making a tart, and it's like making a peach tart, and you go try it, and it's just not quite there yet. The smoky mirror has an energy of it's in the oven, right? Let it be in the oven. Don't try to rush or take it out too quickly. And it's funny why baked goods are coming up, because I was just texting Russell a little bit, and he bakes bread, and it was just like a tart in the oven is what I saw. So thank you Russell for showing me that. It's the recipe that we're currently cooking up in our alchemy and in our design is not quite ready, right? And so as a result, this isn't about pushing through. It's about sitting and waiting and allowing the heat to rise, allowing the dough to rise. Play with dough. They're pushing me to cook. I think I'm gonna cook tonight. Okay, yeah, that's what I have to cook. Got no other way to eat but to cook. But the smoky mirror is saying it's not quite done yet, right? So the clarity right now, the fog and the mist is still around, and it's meant to be around because why is dew produced? So dew and fog is produced from it's from heat and cold mixing together, and it's that foggy vapor. So the foggy vapor, the dew of the morning. And the dew of the morning does have to do with certain climate structures. It's like right now, it's a natural part of the process of the blooming cycle to know that the smoky mirror exists. So it's not that everything is smoke and mirrors, because this will speak of illusion, but it's almost settling in, because I'm seeing this kind of gray fog, this gray mist. It's just, we're not meant to have the clarity or the clearing yet, because it's still in the process of dissolving. And this is why the council card is coming within. And it's that energy of going within, but it's also this energy of go away. I just heard it. It's right when I was saying go within, it's go away, right? And so a going away frequency is not from running. It's about separating ourselves from everything. separate from ego, separate from family and friends, but it's not from the sense of to isolate and separation. It's really about taking a time to get everyone's energies out of your field and to belong to just yourself. It's like a climactic ending to the pursuit of happiness and belonging to happiness from within. So it's not about going without to find that happiness. It's about literally separating yourself from everything that makes you happy so you don't worry, so you find the happiness from within. Yeah. It's really about allowing the adventure to take us where it needs to go. You don't have to exactly know exactly where it is, but you pop into flow and you go. So it's about popping into flow and going. Popping into flow and going. But this doesn't make sense because we were just talking, this is... Alright, this isn't making sense to any of us right now. It's like, just go fucking make a Pop-Tart. Just go big. I don't have Pop-Tarts, but fuck. I really want a Pop-Tart now. I really want a Pop-Tart. I don't think it's supposed to make sense. I think it's just gonna rabbit hole us. I think it's just a giant tornado, and we just need to let the tornado pass. This is what it is. Come in. Take us to Oz. And be done. And be done. The Earth card. Earth card's coming out. And this is the return to that Divine Mother. You know, it's interesting because now that... Thank you. Here we go. This is how it should be lined up. Where do I go? Do I go to God or do I go to Mother Earth? This speaking of like a Krishna or a Brahma tone, right? And it's like, where do I go? Well, obviously there's a little bit of a smoky mirror upstairs, but there seems to be great clarity down below. Great clarity with Pachamama, with Gaia herself. And the number 17 popping up is really beautiful because 11 comes through with that pillar energy. It comes through with that energy of your pillar of light. And 17s to me always speak of ancestral karma. It was a number, we came up with this, I say we, but it was something I picked up years ago from an old friend that said whenever the number 17 popped up for her, it was an ancestral karma line that's clearing. And so right now, the reason why there's this fog or this veil or illusion in the higher dimensional aspects is because with the karma that's clearing, it's almost like the guides or the access points that we're in were not meant to stay in. Like we're in a transit. Thank you. There it goes. Took 23 minutes to get some fucking clarity here. Excuse me. We're in transit. So as we're in dimensional transit, we're not meant to stop off. And it's like driving through a city. And you're not supposed to get out and meet the people. You're just meant to travel through. And that's a part of this corridor, this passageway that we're moving through right now. And why there's no real clarity and why it feels like a sticky mess is because we're rocketing through the sticky mess, but we're not meant to stay there. That's why we're not meant to like sit down and have a drink and have a cup of coffee. It's just, no, we're just strolling on through. Like you're not, it's this energy of, you're not supposed to be asking outside of yourself for anything around you because you're not meant to stay here. You're in transit. You're in an energetic motion or in a momentum and a movement through a passageway. And so while you're there, clear it out. Don't stay and talk to everything on the timeline. Let the timeline fall. Which I like. I like that. I like that energy, and it makes sense because it does have to do with the ancestral karma and probably why things aren't super clear right now. It does feel like a transit point, and I like that because in that transit point, we're still belonging to self, okay? So when we're in a transit point, we're still belonging to self, but we're not meant to belong to that area or into that energy. It's like we're passing through a room, we're collecting and dissolving what we need to dissolve, and then we just get out the other side and we just keep going, right? And there's something about that where we don't have to stop and talk to our neighbors. We don't have to stop and talk to the guides that where we're at or in the dimensional bandwidth or the space that we're occupying energetically because we're just traveling through it. We're in motion. We're in motion. And that's a beautiful thing to know because it makes sense why things feel so separate and the guidance seems so wishy-washy is because it's a temporary place. And here comes the serpent and the sweat lodge. I love this. See, it's interesting. We've got a 10 and a 9 here, 46 and 54. 10 and 9, which means 19. 9, 1 comes back to 10 again, which is a number 1. It's the frequency of 1. It's that frequency of a new cycle. So it's that transit point, that transition. And as we're going from 2 to 1 here, we're coming through a merger, right? Because 2, it's like the 2s come together and make a 1, which is a single pillar, right? So it's that merger and integration of all the energetics and of all the aspects coming back into this. You like that you are the one. The one doesn't exist outside of you. The one is within you. It's the one isn't there. We have to undo the one and let the one be here. It's not an external one or their one. It doesn't exist in the horizontal or the vertical. It actually exists in both because it's right here. And like the one, which is true source God light, it doesn't exist outside of you anymore. It's actually within you. And this is where the serpent and the sweat lodge comes into play. So the serpent, speaking of Kundalini and that energy of life force, and the sweat lodge, speaking of purification for myself, right? It's about allowing this transformative energy to lock us inside of ourselves so we can fully purge and feel what we need to feel. It's like literally, it's not a protection, but it's a very deeply going within to sit in your own internal sweat lodge. And so as things are heating and brewing, right, it's really allowing this energetic life force energy to come in. So allowing the serpent to work up the spine, right? The Kundalini energy, breathing that up through the spine. The rainbow serpent to come in. And allowing that to be the squeeze point or the push through the hole or the eye. So it's energy because it's energy. Yeah, it is energy. It's interesting because it's almost like this doorway is so slim that it doesn't take an expansive approach to pass through the doorway. The doorway requires us to shrink and to go small. Because when we go small, we collapse in. We collapse into self. We collapse into the emotion. It's almost like an alchemical pressure point, right? It's like the pressure cooker coming up because that's the expulsion of the old record and the old memory from the DNA. So a part of this molecular shifting, right, and the molecular dissolve is this is why the energy of the 11 and the council is going within. The going within frequency is a transformative death and rebirth that is spiraling up our spine, but it's a collapse inward because the pressure inward is what is the alchemical design for the diamond to burst through. And so that very much so is about, yep, there's the judgment frequency coming in. That's the judgment day that's coming through. It's that review. It's that what's up for review is the toxic masculinity, right? And when we go into that approach and we invite in Mother Serpent or Mother Snake to transform us, we're going to allow Mother Serpent to come in and to shed out. What's interesting too is it really does speak of the energy of as above, so below, and the two-headed snake. What's going on with the two-headed snake? We're going to go into the mini guy. Mini OG Rider Waite. What's going on with this? What's going on with this energy of the two-headed snake? Because now it feels clear. What's going on with the energy of the two-headed snake? Yeah, see, there's that Eight of Swords and Strength, which is really two opposing polarities. Like the Eight of Swords and Strength, it's that opposition coming in, which is that two-headed serpent energy. There's something about the opposition coming here. You have the Star. An interesting 9 and 10 of Wands. So a part of this is as we give to the waters, we give to the earth in the star frequency. Back again with another 17, which is healing that ancestral line. And this is where we go into 9 and 10. There's that 9-10 frequency again, that 19 coming back to a 10 into a 1. We're coming to a close. And it has to do with Chiron. So this lately, this card has been coming through very much so about Chiron and Atlas. So that's to me, that's Chiron and Atlas. And it has to do with the wounded masculine. So there is something in the ancestral lines right now that is cooking up and coming to a close in regards to Chiron and the energy of Atlas. And it has to do with the masculine archetype, and the masculine archetype in its hypervigilance. And this is that wounded soldier, right? The wounded soldier and the concubine energy, which I just heard concubine, which I'm not going to go into right now, but it's like something with polygamy and polyamory. Interesting. Okay, shift that one out. Thank you. So with the 9 and the 10 of Wands, we have the energy here of Chiron and Atlas. And it's that energy of that the strength of the masculine is held within the title of carrying the weight of the world on its shoulders. And why there's the energy of sacrifice and of martyrdom that's coming forward, and that's what's shifting out. So as a result, if you are a healer, you might not be called to heal right now or to help anyone, because it's really about turning within and feeling the pressure of not having an identity to being a healer. It's almost like a death. It's a death of the identity of being a reader or of being a healer. Because attachment to the identity is what creates the illusion. And there's an illusion that needs to shift about what it is to be a human being is light, right? Or a divine being, and the divine essence, where we're dissolving what the ego wants to hear, what the ego wants to tell itself, so we can return back to that place of nurture. And so if you feel like, oh, I need to be doing more offline stuff, or I'm not meant to be helping other people right now, and the worry is coming through, because this has been for myself too, it's because of Chiron and Atlas. It's an energy or an identification that wants to shift, that we need to detach from that, because we are evolving. So as our new roles, because I've been talking about new timelines and new roles and being magic, right? Is like the new timelines require a new role to show up. So how can you make room for that new role to arrive if you're living out the same old stardom, if you're playing out the same old theme and the same old identity? It's like there's still a layer, and this is why that serpentine energy is coming through, is there's an identity that wants to clear. And so that is the shedding or the removal of the layer or the identity of self, so we can come into greater harmony with who we're here to become in this next phase of our ascension cycle, into this next phase of our truth. Yeah, 2 of Cups. Okay, it's another level of mastery. It's another level of mastery, but it's also really now tying into that level of emotional fulfillment. So yeah, two of Cups does speak of, did I say 2 of Wands earlier? 2 of Cups very much so speaks about partnership, right? It's about tribe, getting together. This could be relationship frequency, but to me, it's very much so speaking of the caduceus, right? And a merger, right? It is about harmonization of the masculine and feminine coming in to create this master, because we have the caduceus here. But the caduceus always speaks of medicine as well. So I'm being drawn to talk about the caduceus in the medical model with, EMTs and EMSs here in the United States. The ambulance is coming forward, and as a result, it's the energy of medicine. It's the energy of medicine and of a new medicine that wants to show up for us. But if we are still identifying with ourselves in an old way, the new medicine can't show up. There can't be an arrival of this. But also, too, it seems like there are people that we're called to meet in this lifetime and in these time frames, these pathways that we're building right now. Let's say pathway, because we want to get out of time and out of the linear approach, thank you, is that as we're coming into these new pathways, there is an arrival of unity and meeting of people, but you can't meet these individuals in your old identity. They belong in a new, there's a new version of you that you're supposed to meet them with and as, because that's the one that holds the key. That's the one that holds the key, which I really like. Yeah, see, Queen of Cups, here we go. This is that emotional inheritance, right? Emotional inheritance, but Queen of Cups always speaks of the multidimensionality too. But I want to find a new approach to this. There's something about the sea and the mother of the sea that's coming forward. I want to, for some reason, I just want to call this mother of the sea. And I was talking about the sea serpent. We were talking about the waters earlier. Let's go into that. I want to go deeper into that energy. What is the mother of the sea? What is she presenting to us? She's bringing in magic. This is water magic. This is a merger of fire and water coming along. This is water magic. This is water magic. It's like there's been a mastery in the fire magic and now wants to birth the water magic. But it's interesting. How does this tie into? Because we've got two queens here. We've got two queens here. One of emotions and one of creation. It's a now coming into emotional. It's a merger. It's recognizing that the basis of our magic and of our creation is in the realms of emotion. This is opening up the heart. This is about genuinely caring about what you do. The reason the distraction frequency is coming in is because we might not truly be caring about what we do. So this energy right now is saying, we want you to care again. I love it. It's not so much about what we're doing, it's not about what we're doing, what we're identifying as, but how we're feeling when we do it. Because that is what has been neglected from the archetype of the masculine, is how do we feel about what we do? Deeply, truly. Not the surface level, right? Not the I feel good having a paycheck, right? I feel good when I have money, even though money feels good. But it's really about, if you could afford everything in the world, what would you be doing? And that's such a beautiful question point for all of us in our reality. If money weren't a factor, what would we be doing? What would we truly be doing? What would we be doing? It is that recognizing that in our passions, in our creations, we need the emotional realms to show up. We need you to care again. We need you to stop worrying about how you're going to get a job, how you're going to find a place to live, how's the money going to come. It's not about the logical question of the details. It's about the feeling. And Gaia right now is I'm so happy. Gaia right now is saying, let go of the details. Let the details arrive later. You're in the unknown. We just want you to start caring about what you do and caring how you approach the world and how you approach others. Because the wounded masculine has been in hypervigilance. Why? It's in its head. Its heart is closed. This is the energy of having your heart closed. And then this is a result of carrying too much stuff and too much burden. It's about relaxing. It's about dropping the shoulders and going, we need you to start caring for yourself so you can begin caring for others, right? And I love that that's the energetics coming forward, and it's providing this merger of, it's almost like Neptune and Jupiter working together, because we've got the energy of Neptune. There we go. I love it. Perfect. It's the energy of Neptune, which is in retrograde through the rest of the year. Neptune retrograde has been bringing in a lot of emotionality and a lot of awakening of spirituality. And it's almost like Jupiter and Neptune are working together right now, because this is the way I'm just seeing it. Jupiter and Neptune are coming together right now to bring about a new magic. And it's not logical magic, it's emotional magic. It's the power of our emotional realms that's coming forward. And this is, it's interesting because here we have the Shiva Lingam. We have the Lingam here. The presentation of I'm so sorry. We were talking about concubines and polygamy stuff, weren't we? There's the Lingam. It's the magic of the masculine is in the emotionality, right? So it's that merger of masculine and feminine, and making sure that the energy of, or the archetype of the masculine has a more compassionate approach into, because this is that, once again, we're dissolving the war-torn masculine, and we're making sure that it comes back into that emotional vulnerability and that emotional abundance. And that emotional abundance requires a breakthrough of the energetics. That's why the energy of Mars is firing in, and it's really breaking all that energy out and through and causing that push off. Because if you hold a lot of that feminine energy naturally, it's naturally going to attract in the wounded masculine within others, whether it is a man or a woman, right? It doesn't matter about the form, it's the energetics. And that wounding right now is coming through, and it's one level is it's bringing forward, right, the feminine. within itself, but it's also suffocating a lot of the feminine. And that's why a lot of us are going within and feel like we're kind of dying inside a little bit, because there is an aspect of ourselves that's falling off. The frayed ends are clearing. We are dissolving, and we are rerouting back to what this is. There we go. There's the Fool card, right? There's the journey, the exploration. There's the new beginning tied in with the Ace of Wands, the new journey ahead. But it's also that back to that careless, carefree, joyous expression. This is coming through with that freedom. And the freedom is in the emotionality of being able to go la, 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 and not care so much about what's going on around. Now, the Fool might be speaking of foolishness in some level, in some regards. So take this as you would like to take it and read it for yourself. But there's something, and you see the crest of the wave behind it, right? So there's the crest of the wave of the Fool, and he's kind of like, he's allowing the tide to take him over, which is the realms of emotionality. It's literally about surrendering and going, bring on the emotional release, bring on the emotional abundance. I'm here for it, right? And so it's an invitation of the masculine energy to say, you know what, this healing that I need, it's from the waters of the divine. So allow myself to be carried with the tide of that emotional flow, because it is going to, the propulsion of this next journey is in emotionality. It's now about feeling our way through the process. Every moment, do not deny 1 ounce of feeling. Do not deny 1 ounce of feeling, and do not feel guilty and shame or shameful for having emotions, right? Because the crest of the wave that's carrying the Fool forward, almost like a surfer on a surfboard, it is the wave, or what we would talk about, the cosmic wave, right? It really is about the true abundance of nourishment that we're calling forward right now. It requires this, right? But it also now requires us going, where is our mindset at? This is about consciously tuning to the room that we occupy. So yes, we have access to multiple dimensions and multiple rooms. In which realm or framework are we currently occupying? This is becoming aware that, yeah, our emotional tendencies, and on this new journey, it requires us to ride the wave of emotion home, or ride the waves, right, of the cosmic currents. But then it's also now about, which realm of consciousness am I occupying, and how can I sustain? Because if we're staying, right, if we're feeling immobile, it might be because of the thought, it might be of the worry, because the flow in the direction is that which you are creating in this now moment might not belong at a third dimensional frequency, but the third dimensional mental construct is what's blocking you from being able to see the smoky mirror, right, because of what's happening on the other side. The Nine of Swords does speak of anguish too, and it does speak of the guilt and all of the fear of the worry coming in. But this to me is speaking about the realm of consciousness in which we are occupying, right? The realm of consciousness in which you occupy. It is a very much so a dark night of the soul energy, but it is also too about embracing and looking into our thoughts and how they drive forward in our journey. So it's not mental magic, it's emotional magic, right? Because the mental focus, this is if all these thoughts are propelling forward in the level of creation, where are we directing our energy forward? Where are we directing our mind at? Are we worrying? Are we wallowing? Are we in self-pity? Are we in desire? Are we in, the word that wants to come through is delusion. I don't like that word because it does have a little bit of a grammatical effect, so let's clear, cancel, delete that. But it really is about the energy of worrying too much. Well, it's because it's now time to come more back. Instead of the mind, it's like heart and gut. I'm feeling this, like we need to come back into the gut. Like we really need to ground into the form and not live from the gut, but really go within to feel what's harnessing. It's that intuition. It's that intuition. It's not an outward-ition or an out-to-ition. It's into. So we have to go into that state of feeling for the clarity that's arriving for ourselves, but we can't find it in thought. Yeah, there's Libra. There's Libra. Justice coming in. It's about balance. Head, heart, work, play, right? But with the Justice, we have another 11 coming in, which is speaking of new beginning. But this is in Libra season, bringing forward that there's justice being brought to these lines right now, and to these old concerns. Things are coming to a close. What we need to do is just ride out this one in the wave of whatever we're feeling in every now moment, because there is a new timeline opening. There is new magic arriving. But we have to stand, yeah, there we go. I love it. Here comes the Emperor card. Because what's being birthed through this is the Divine Masculine. This is the natural occurring cycle in the collective of the birth of the Divine Masculine and a return of the energy of the Emperor. And right now, it's just another layer of toxic masculinity that's clearing because we're going through a merger, right? We're going through a merger. We're going through activating a new level of magic and new timelines, and there's a new masculine being born. But as a result, the stories just need to clear. And that's all. So it really is about the emotional nurture, the emotional nature, and making sure that with this star card, that we are also giving back to Gaia. We're giving back to the oceans on our journey, okay? We're gifting back to the realms of the organics around us. But it's making sure that as we're clearing these ancestral lines and this ancestral karma, that we're doing what we can to feel fully every single drop of what's coming forward, because it's the cellular memory that's clearing. Yep, here it goes. The Magician. So now that we've gone through this murder, the masculine comes up about, right? And we're recognizing that there is some old wounding, some old identities with Chiron and Atlas, and that the masculine cannot carry on with this sacrifice and this martyrdom. Where do we create from here? So now that the revelation and the truth has arrived, what do we create with? What do we create as? And how do we begin to use these resources of everything that we have access to create with, right? And, you know, I feel like almost, there's one card. Yeah, here we go. I love it. Because I was about to ask, like, so where do we go from here? And this is a great way to stop the reading, because we stop at the Hangman. We don't go anywhere. We go within. We go within. We hang upside down and we wait for our clarity. Because our clarity will arrive. When Odin hung from the tree, when he hung from the Yggdrasil tree, and he received his download, he received his codes for the runes, all he did was turn up and wait. So this passageway right now, and this feeling, while it might feel fleeting, is to note that that this too shall pass, right? That there is a layering of the masculine with the war-torn masculine and Chiron and Atlas focus that is occurring right now. And as a result, Libra season is bringing about this shifting of these energetics. The creation is coming. Go within. Where do you create from here free of these storylines? So now that the revelation is here, that these storylines are collecting and we're awakening another level of the divine masculine within our own lives and the frequency of the emperor, what is it that we choose to build free of these narratives? And better yet, how does it feel to us? Because the purpose and the pathway and the direction is not about what you do, it's how you feel while you're doing it. There is still some stigma with light workers, you know, especially in the new age industries that are like, I have to be a healer, I have to be this, I have to be that. And it's really about washing that entire situation away and going, okay, so if I'm here to be here in the long haul on planet Earth, right, and navigating the ascension trajectory, what feels best to me? And it's now about, for all of us, making sure that as we're taking the action to approach, how are we acting in a way that feels in alignment with us? Because it's now about the emotional feeling and the emotional stability and emotional responsibility more than anything. Because we cannot keep creating storylines and scenarios that are filled with lack and of torture and keep projecting it onto one another. It's really about knowing that our wish fulfillment at the end of the journey requires us, with that 10 of cups requires all cups to be in place, which means all emotions to be intact, which means that the entire journey of the collection of cups or emotional reward is what leads to the 10 of cups, right? So the 10 of cups is always in that, because we are looking at the realms of emotion here, the realms of cups, is that every step in that card is an assembly of another piece of our emotionality, and at the end we get the rainbow with the happy home, happy family, happy life, right? So a part of putting these pieces together is now about making sure that every step of the journey feels right for us. It's not about if it sounds right or if it's culturally pleasing or it pulls in a good audience, or it's not about any of those things. It's not about the identity factors. It's about how it feels as you're doing it, because that's the result we're looking for in magic now. It's not about how it appears, right? Because that's still MAGIC, which is still full of stage tricks and illusions, but it's about how do you feel as you're doing what you're doing, because that's what's going to be felt by all, and that's where we will lead ourselves to the 10 of cups, which is that true abundant happiness and the rainbow bridge that we're all desiring to create here on planet Earth. So I love you guys. That ended up going good. A little strange at first, but it went well. It tied in together nicely, working with the wounded masculine energy. So I love you all. Much love and respect to everyone out there. Thank you all for your donations, for everything. Sessions are available. If you'd like to book a session, please reach out to me, foundersoflight.org. I have some price adjustments that I need to do because I recognized some things, some silly little things, and I'm just changing some things around. Right? So if you need a session, please reach out. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I thank you all for your comments, your likes, your well wishes, and for all of your messages. I wish you an amazing journey. I wish you an amazing passageway. And until then, I will see you beyond the veil and beyond the grail. Love you guys. Much love and respect to everyone out there, and I'll see you in another moment of the now. Ciao, uke na shueta. Bye, Yahoo. Whew.